bid you good day. I bid you welcome. It is time to imagine again. It is time to imagine what you are, how you came to be, how you might continue to be or to evolve. And out of this imagination, we will look into the past, into your history, and we will look into your future, the future of man, the development and the evolution of man, what he is, what he has become and how he has become. What is the measure of a man? And what is it that man seeks, desires? How does a man come into his beingness? Indeed, the spirituality of a man, the measure of a man himself. We must reimagine the human man, the human male, to invigorate him, to give him potential, to allow him to assert himself in all of the necessary and important ways, to instill great strength in him, to allow him to reimagine his courage, his yearning, and to acknowledge what he has come to be in the many paths that he has chosen. For in acknowledging all of this, it brings freedom, you see. It brings freedom that allows one to be not only what one is, it brings peace. And in that allows the next creative step for man, and contributing then to the all and to the woman and to the mankind. There are many different kinds of man, as you might imagine, but here we look at this in the greater sense. In the greater sense of what it is to be or to become a man, more than even in the worldly sense or in the global sense, or even in the sense of the many lifetimes. Here we must look first at universal man, for there is that as well. There is a man of this universe, a man that has been creative, imagined, engineered, evolved, brought forward, coaxed, encouraged, birthed. And in that universal man lies the highest potential, the highest achievement for becoming what it is that man already is or was. In the universal man exists then all things, all possibilities. Physical man, non-physical man, spiritual man, space man, what you will call it. A man that can exist upon many different worlds. For when man can truly imagine himself, he can imagine himself being almost anything and almost anywhere, which is how you came to have astronauts, or those that would come from even far away places, the great and greater man. So first we must imagine then great and greater man. In order to acknowledge these properties, to say great man is not based upon achievements, not based upon human achievements then, but in the universal sense. So the greater man would be in the larger sense, the potential man which is greater than a human man. The greater man that can be or travel or call himself forward at will, or make a body a greater body or a lesser body. And so there have been many different kinds of men. And the greater mans are those that have imagined themselves in many different potentials. And that is what gave them the ability to imagine themselves elsewhere or to travel to begin with, and eventually to come to earth. And so this greater man then would be in greater stature. There would be greater knowledge associated. Now, knowledge is not wisdom, so we are not here speaking of a very wise or a very sage man, but a knowledgeable man, meaning one that is aware of his origins, one that is aware and has greater memories than human man has. So the greater man then would be aware of what and who he is, of how he has been created, of how he evolved, of his ability to manifest himself in a variety of different ways and with significant different properties. This greater man would also be then a stronger man, in many ways more aware, more dedicated to his own evolution and to life itself. To life itself wherever it can be found, wherever it can be developed, wherever it can be nurtured. Now here we are not speaking then yet of the relationship between man and woman, particularly earth human, which came much later. So we begin our journey long and far ago or far forward, depending on how you will view this. For it is also this evolved man, this universal greater man, that the current human man envisions or imagines or is capable of becoming. So in some ways we could say that the past is very much like the future, if you can imagine it so, or very much as time would have you spiral through it, offering all of the different evolutionary paradigms that have come forward. Universal man then had a relationship with the God essence or the God essence man. This knowledge then of knowing how he had come forward, how he had become physicalized energy. So we're not here speaking yet of a physical human being man and all of his genetic input. We are speaking of the potentialized man, meaning that there is a potential for being human or physicalizing a humanity or a physical form. This evolved man had the knowledge of how to do this. Alchemy, if you like, a combination of alchemy and genetics and mystery and mastery and more. The blend, the formula, the recipe for making life. And at that time, the recipe for making life did not necessarily have to involve man and woman and birth of man. That came much later, and of course there are particular abilities to this upon the earth which are anomalous to the earth as they would be to other worlds as well. So potentialized man then had the ability to make manifest a body when it became necessary, important, vital to do so. This ability, as we have said, did not require the sexual act. It did not require needing to birth oneself from a babe and raise oneself from a child into a man. So universal man is that. It is realized man in all of its sense abilities. But again, it is not the same as saying it is a sage or wise or enlightened man. Enlightening is something that is unique unto itself. It is something that everything, every one, every being seeks in its own way, in its own measure. It is that which is always, always becoming and then seeking to become more, and then realizing and then becoming and then choosing and then evolving. And it is a never-ending cycle, moving both within and without. So the enlightening of a man, any man, greater man or lesser man or human man, that is concurrent to the evolution of a species or even a desire or the movements of man. Eventually, as we have said, man did realize himself upon the earth, upon different versions of the earth, at different times in which the earth has been made real. To say that the earth has been made real means to say that it could support life, for the earth has not always, always supported human life. Always living, always being, always Gaia essence being, but not always offering the possibilities for human manifestation or expression, evolution, or development. And yet at times, and for a specific purpose, the reasons being appropriate, the earth did support man of reason or logical man, and that is great man, which then became lesser man. It is not the same to say that we are speaking of the devolution of man. There are simply different scales of evolution, some of them being lower and others being higher. So if you will subtract the idea of needing to have a linear progression and imagine then a scale, something like musical notes, where it is at times appropriate to be higher on the scale and at times more appropriate to be lower on the scale in order that there be balance and true progression, then you will see that there is an importance and a necessity for both greater man and lesser man. And the earth has supported and sustained that idea at various different times. So human man, or the human male, came to be realized upon the earth in this great cycle, and that is what we speak of now. We will concentrate our efforts now on the last 10,000 years or so, which is plenty of time backward, and we may look forward as much into the future as we will. In essence, it is the relationship between man, greater man, and his God, or the God of will, or willpower, or free will, or creativity, that brought him to the earth. How and why did man come to the earth? In order to experience and to express free will in all of its capacities, in all of the ways that it would be offered or could be expressed and explored throughout time. Man, then, the awareness that is man, allowed himself, submerged himself into the culture of the earth culture, the Gaian culture, and all that it would offer, all that it would give, and all that it would take in the process in order to develop or evolve this part, or the human male. And so greater man yielded to the great man, or what you would call the gods, the lesser gods, or those that have visited upon the earth that you might imagine to be larger in stature, from another world perhaps, seemingly more advanced than the smaller, insignificant male of the time upon the earth, or that which had already been genetically developing upon the earth. For yes, third-dimensional worlds and the material that they offer allow for the progression of human man, lesser man. Greater man, then, or the one that came to the earth to visit upon the earth, the ability to evolve in many different ways, is what became the teacher, or the God, for the man that you know of today. And so the lesser man is what you would term God-fearing man. A little bit like caveman, but well, much more evolved than that. Caveman was truly much more another species altogether, or what the earth had produced with the available material of the time. So not very conscious, very instinctual, respectful in its own way. Well, eventually, the lesser man then fell his eyes upon greater man who had come to the earth to visit. And so that became his model. That became God. That became the greater man, the lighter-skinned man. This was the first introduction of this, for the lighter or greater beings had a lighter, more translucent skin. Bluish, whitish in nature, not as flesh-colored as man is today, not as Caucasian as man would be today, neither lighter nor darker, but a rather translucent coloring. And this greater man, then, was not as muscular, but was much larger in stature itself. And so the lesser man of the earth, then, saw this greatness and wished to emulate it, in its most positive sense, not because it found itself puny or small, but simply because it saw before it what he decided was important, necessary, vital, and this became a goal. Greater man became a mentor for earth man. Now here we leave aside both the fables and the history and the myths associated with all of the biblical nature, for it would be much too much to delve into which parts of this were completely accurate, which parts are half or part way or quarter way accurate. And we leave aside as well the visitations upon the earth of other man and other beings, for that would also then convolute the subject matter, which is simply to reimagine man. We will come by and by to visit upon the other subjects that are great and interesting as well. So man found for himself then a mentor, what he considered God or God-like, something to emulate, and he sought then to become that, to develop these qualities within himself. These good qualities, not God, but good qualities then, became vital to the human man, and he sought to study and to learn from the greater man who became his teacher. Many of those beings that you might think of as mythical were in essence greater men that had come to visit upon the earth and had, yes, agreed for their own purpose or abilities, well suited to them, to be teacher or guide to modern man. Here we speak of, yes, modern human man. And so much that you think of now as the necessary traits, the masculinity, the ability to think in linear fashion, to progress thoughts, the importance of developing form or the functions of form, the abilities or the desires to build, to progress the mind, to think intuitively and instinctually, to develop the finer qualities of the higher mind or the principles of man. That was the first or initial goals or desires of human man, human modern man. Now we progress then from the lesser man, based on what was the available material, uninspired material, we will say, upon the earth, to that which became the human potential man, modern man. Of course, these are all descriptions. They are not true names. They give no significance other than to make a distinction between what was and what is, and to show the slight variances between these. As man began to want, desire to be as greater man, the body began to change as well, for as the mind changes, the physical matter changes, as you well know. And so the man's body began to grow in stature a little bit. The eyes became a little bit clearer. They became lighter. They became lighter in color. As man looked up to the skies, he desired to have eyes the color of the skies, and they literally became so over time. Man developed then a better ability to hear, to see, to combine, and man refined himself over time so that the very genetics of man became refined in that process. Now, how did that refining process take place? Yes, it was genetic, and it was with the assistance of woman, for human man could only bring himself forward in the ways of human nature or procreation or sexuality. This in contrast then to the God-like man that did not truly require this, though it could be, but it was not required, you see? In order to develop man, woman also needed to develop, and did, in a different way, in a different capacity, at times influenced by other motives and in other directions, which is part of the reason why there is very still great differences between human male and human female, which is not to say two halves of one whole, but is to say two whole, complete, and sometimes distinctly different and unique beings. Simply because you share the same kind of organs, and because you are able to come together well in order to procreate as you do, and because you are members of the same or similar species, it is well to put, does not mean in essence that you truly are two halves of the same whole that have simply lost an understanding for one another. There are in fact unique cases, and plenty of them, that the differences between man and woman are significant enough that they are almost different species in that way. So it is well to say that there has been a different way to develop the man and to develop the woman, and, of course, as you already know, throughout history, there has been a rise and fall in this as well. Times when the man's knowledge has been more, and times when woman's knowledge has been more. Times where linear progression and evolution has taken hold and has taken a great leap. Times when spiral evolution, movement inward through the intuitive senses and awareness, has changed evolution. Each of these different scenarios causing a spike, if you will, in consciousness, in growth, in coming forward, in the development of the mind, and thereby the use of the earth and the earth's resources by both one and both genders. Eventually they came to think of themselves as both the same gender, yes, man and woman, both to think of themselves as the same as you do now. And yet still I would say to you that there are just enough differences to almost consider a different species, at least in some cases. As man began to evolve emulating a higher standard, then the health increased, the longevity of man increased as well, and this has changed throughout time as well, and so has the ability to express man's himself sexuality. Of course now there are many morals and standards that cultures will imply to what is acceptable and not, that man ought be with woman, that man ought or ought not be with man, or sexuality or homosexuality or bestiality or what it would be called. But throughout history, well, the earth has provided many different ways to evolve or to discover, and it is rare that man has not found a way to take advantage of this, here and there making errors, if you will. An error is simply that which does not yield longevity, or an error is that which yields one onto a different path, or a more correct path, or a more advanced path. So what is the error, and what is the harm, at least in the scheme of time? And time does as well have its own scheme, its own progressions, its own choices, its own corridors that it offers. Some leading up and some leading down or away or to or from. And they are all correct in their own way. So man is and has been sexual with himself, has been asexual, has been sexual with woman, has held himself to the highest of standards and then to the lowest as well. And I tell you that it is all well with the earth, and that it is all well and settled in your history, and that there is nothing left to do, nor to say, nor to examine in these areas, only to choose. To choose what is well, and what is good, and what moves forward and delights. And now, and currently then, the desire is to know and to be more conscious, more evolved of the mind, more peaceful in the heart, more balanced in the equation of the masculinity and the femininity within one's own being. It is man himself that wishes to balance the feminine within himself. And he takes the examples from his past as he does from his future. And he takes the examples from the left brain and from the right brain. And he takes from the intuition and from the instinct. And out of this begins to make a blend, a recipe, a formula for moving forward. And that is what you are undergoing now, man. That is what the male of the species now undergoes. A great transformation, and a difficult one at that. A great metamorphosis. To turn himself inside out. And what will he see? He will see a woman. He will see form and formlessness. He will see the greater and greatest mans that he has been. He will see the rise and the fall of man, the trek that he has made, the journey that he has undertaken within and without. And that is why now the great search through all of the different abilities that he has. Those that will move about, pounding their chest as it would be, saying, "There is my virility." And those that at the same time appear to have lost it, only to find it again, to discover it with themselves, or to blame another, or to blame themselves, to blame a mother or a father, a culture, a civilization, or a war, or simply to search and to discover within themselves the great and greatest potential as there has always been. The difficulty being now for man is that the role model is within himself. He must birth himself. Man, human, earth man, is now in the process of making himself, creating, recreating, reimagining himself, as we have said. It is not an easy proposition to work from the inside out, to reimagine that every tool is from within, to chisel at oneself without truly being able to see what the finished product might look like, only to imagine it in that way. So man efforts now. He efforts to change. He efforts to tear down which others have built. And in so doing, he has torn apart in his own way his own heart, his own family at times. He has torn apart that which he has great to uphold and to protect, which is woman. And so man in his own way suffers his own birth now. Man suffers his labor pains now, even as a woman suffers in labor. So man births himself now through the world's eyes. The world is watching as man births himself. Womankind is watching, in some ways assisting, and at the same time holding back. For the woman now pushes also to be as man. "Make me an equal," woman says. "I am like you. I am your other half. I am as strong as you are. I am as intelligent and as bright and as sophisticated as you are. I also may rule the world if I wish." So womankind compares itself to man and says, "I am that also. I am equal to that." But no and nay, that is not the case. For woman and man are not equal to one another, though they are the same. In sameness, one discovers a perfect reflection. In equality, well, even those things that are equal are not always balanced. An interesting thought, a paradox within a paradigm, within a paradox. Something to toy with and play with and keep you up at night, though it is not my desire to do so. So man now reimagines himself even through his culture and through his society. He reimagines what he might be, how to rebuild a world, and in so doing, at times consciously and at times not, he begins to destroy the world that he has created. For sometimes, as you well know, those things must be destroyed in order to create. So man destroys his world, and he destroys his resources, so important they are to him. And he destroys that even which he built or which his ancestors built, and says they are no longer valid or they are no longer real. And he seeks to imagine a new world, but does not yet have the material by which to draw upon. For this man has forgotten, current man has forgotten, the power that comes from the light of the sun. He has forgotten where the great generators are, nearby, within, tucked and hidden. Modern man has forgotten the power of the moon and the tides. and how to summon these at will. And when he begins to blend these together, the power of the sun and the moon, and to see these as equal and different, each powerful, then he will remake himself again, remake his mind, and yes, his body again, for the body will also then shift and change. In some ways the body will appear to be less masculine than you see it now, and yet the stature will be more. There will be more of a presence to man, more of a presence to what he is, but you will not see it in great physical strength. The strength of man will be in the strength to do, to choose, to command principles from within himself rather than in the simple brawn. And so there will be a division of the senses, a division again of instinct and intuition, those that are able to blend all and call upon these tools as one, and some that will gain some and lose others. Intuitive man for some will lose instinct. Instinctual man will forget some of the intuitive abilities, and then those that are able to summon them all. And man of future, or reimagined man, 21st century man if you like, but it is only the beginning, and man will continue to evolve, changing for the next 1,000 years or so. So to say 21st century man is to say no more than one that is a few months old or 1 year old. What means this? Not much in the grander scheme of things. So man will progress within himself again, searching through the spiral, the galaxy spiral, for his history, for his past, and for his future. And he will begin to reimagine for himself a new mind, a new story. He will tell himself a new story of who he is, and why he is here. And you will see that as man begins to tell a new story, woman will begin to spin that story through the very genetics and through the very womb of woman, through the very web of life. Woman will spin or cast a new tale. A new man will be born, and man will reimagine himself and his tale and why he is here and what he is to do and what is the purpose of life and what is the purpose of earth and planet and what is the purpose of civilization and culture and what to bring forward. And it will bury over, cover over some of his history, some of his roots, just as he has done before. He will forget, in reimagining a new self, he will forget some of his old self. For yes, forgetting is necessary. It is necessary at times to forget in order to create that which is original, rather than to simply recreate. To imagine rather than to reimagine. To make new life rather than to remake of the old. And so yes, man will destroy in order that he might create, and he will enlist the support of woman to destroy. For it is woman that controls the form, and how that form is held together. It is woman that controls the fabric of life. So man will summon the powers of woman to destroy in order to create, to make anew, to reimagine a new world for both man and woman, and from there to build with new material. Material that is offered then from the sun and from the moon. Then will come men from other worlds. For how this question remains, and when will they come, and where will they come from, these space man, these aliens, these extraterrestrials, and where and when will they come? They will come when man imagines that there is a place for them. They will come when man is not as threatened to be small and insignificant and puny in comparison to the greater man that he must become. They will come when man becomes brother and father and even sister and mother, without the greater threat of what comes from the skies. In other words, when he balances sun and moon within, and the mind of man becomes the new and next modern man. Then will come his brothers, for they are that, and those that have inspired them before, and those that have come from the stars of the worlds, and greater man will then have a reason to be greater man. There was a time when great works were necessary and important upon the earth. Then that time faded away, and with it the memories and the tools of how to make great things great faded as well. For the mind is but a repository for the thoughts and the ideas that are necessary and vital to life. If they are not necessary and vital, then the mind will not yield them, will not uphold them, and the memories begin to fade away until they become no more than the myths of a distant past. So man, in fact, must now reimagine himself. He must reimagine the roles that he plays, that he becomes. And to say that he must does not mean that it is a thinking man's gesture. To say that man must reimagine himself does not mean that he must think himself into a new idea or else. To say must means that he will. It means that it is in process. It means that man is dreaming himself anew and enlisting the support of all of the material of both earth and beyond the earth as well, whether or not he is conscious and aware of it or not. You are not conscious and aware of your cells dividing, of your thoughts remaking themselves, of you undoing your beliefs in order to make others, or to make fertile ground for new and different ideas or for change. So man is conflict now. Man is in conflict with himself now, in conflict with the old, and unable to imagine the new yet. But he must, and so he will. And that is the effort. So man is in great effort now, working man, working on himself, working man, to dig into his past and to look into his future. And he struggles, and he fights within himself, and he fights with others. And so he makes war upon himself and war upon others. And the smaller man makes war in a gang in a neighborhood. And another man makes war upon another because he is told, look here, he is your enemy. He is the enemy of your God, and you will make him your enemy as well. And so man believes and follows, but does not yet lead. And so you see that man does not yet think for himself, evolve for himself, for he follows the traditions of others, the beliefs and the standards of others and of the past. And so man struggles and efforts to birth himself. He labors within himself, and so he labors in the world. No, he cannot retire. No, the world will not let him. No, the world will not let him have an easy time of it now. For he must work upon the earth, and he must birth himself. And so man reimagines himself. He imagines his next genetic future. He imagines the next role of a father, and he imagines what he might become and how it might all take place. And he imagines how life on earth might continue when it all seems as if it could end. And because it all seems as if it might end, he imagines that he may as well use all of the resources of the earth, or hurry and speed towards an end that is coming, or be fearful instead. Protect what he has. Protect those small assets. Protect the smallness that he has built around himself, and say, that is my kingdom, and I will protect it. It is a small hovel, but I will protect it. It is my kingdom, and I will protect you with it. So man redefines his boundaries within and his boundaries without. To the degree that man protects his properties, his relationships, his beliefs, to the degree that he hoards his own knowledge from himself. But man is a work in process. He is efforting, he is making, he is in labor, and he is to be given great credit for this. And there are those that do, and there are those who assist. For man is not alone in this process, and whether you will call them the watchers or the helpers or the guides or the angels or the deities or the knowing ones, There are those, indeed, who watch and do more than watch as well. And they support and uplift where there is effort. And they call forward. Out of the greatness and the great times, they call forward even the material of long ago, so that man receives the benefit of this. And to the credit of man, then, there is the work that is taking place in the field, as we have named this. That which remakes itself even in the pathways of the mind, of the brain, even in the bloodstream, even in the eradication of those dis-eases and those discomforts that man now battles, even as he battles his prostate. He will be successful, for he will battle and he will overtake. The mind will overtake the body, and the mind will create a new structure, a new place, a new grid for man to walk upon. And how will you know this is taking place? How will you know and see that some of these changes are taking place? You need not wait 100 or 1,000 years for all of the genetics to display a different physical specimen to view. You will see the changes by the works of man. You will see the changes by the deeds and the words and the works of man. So I will introduce you to the concept, then the idea, what we will call man of liquid light. I have no better word for it. We will name it this for the time being. The new man, the evolved man, if you like. Man of liquid light. Man who has observed. Man who has taken upon within himself the serum and the syrup of life, and found there a new formula. A new formula to enter the blood and the bloodstream, and the nectar of light and the nectar of thought, and all those things that travel up and down and through the spinal column, and in and through all of the cavities of man, even up in and through the serum, or the semen of man. So we will say liquid man, or liquid light man, who must understand to drink the light of the liquid sun. The light of the liquid sun, the golden elixir, and hereby to allow something new to travel within. Man of liquid light then will begin to find himself, bit by bit, into and around all of the cultures of the earth, here and there. Will have a slight different appearance, yes, a slight different androgynous look. You may almost want to say, this one indeed looks like an extraterrestrial, though I beg to say you do not know what one looks like, but you will think you do. For you will say that those that are not of here must be of there, wherever there is. Man of liquid light, then, offers his own gestures, his own thoughts, a different way to think, a thinking man's man, one that will consider, one that will move at a slower pace, one that will make decidedly different decisions that favor not one and not many, but a whole system or a whole thought. Man of liquid light will devise new systems of thought. New systems of thought will later evolve into all of the necessary systems that you require, be they, yes, of economic, of educational, of governmental nature. These will come, for the newer man will imagine them as he imagines himself. First he must imagine himself living in such a world, then he can create that world. So that is what is lacking now, the ability to imagine himself different, or better, or healed, or curious, or even to be natural. For most of the man of today is unnatural man, looking for a sophistication that is not there, or a plan that has become obsolete, or a past that is erasing itself day by day. So the earth is in need of this new man. The earth is in need of man of liquid light, evolutionary man, to bring forth not a revolution as there has been in the past, but the ability to evolve without one. It is this man, then, that will imagine a new world, and in that imagining he will call upon woman, his sameness, his partnering, to bring forth those qualities that are most necessary. And that is when the earth will return then to a time of flourishing. For now it is not as you have seen. The seasons do not flourish and do not yield as they could. For man must imagine a world in which they do. So you see, man, thinking man, imagining man, must call upon the new vision. And then he must call upon woman to create it, for it is woman that will bring it into form. Woman will birth it, man will build it. And so you see how the two and the more than two, or the sum, become more than the ingredients or the sum of their parts. Both genders then must summon the light of the sun, that of the moon, and that of the resources of the earth, and to see how they work together to understand the formula of life itself. For this has been forgotten, obliterated in some cases, hidden in some. The mysteries of life must be revealed again. But man must consider himself deserving of these mysteries, to call upon them again, to summon them out of the greater man that dwells within him, and they will come forward. The doors will open. The doors to the mind, to the corridors of the mind, the memories will yield a new vision and will retool the mind and reinvent a planet, a world. And you will see it in your lifetime, some of it, not all of it. And you will see it in the generations that are already present. For you see among the young mans those that will not follow in the footsteps of those who have led. Oh, of great revolt is that! How awful for a son not to follow his father! Yes, for the son to say, I will not go that way. You have carved out that path, but see how deep it is. See how deep the crevices upon the earth that you have made. See how deep the lines upon your face for having made such crevices. No, I cannot follow that. And so life changes, evolves as it does. And as man evolves, the species of the earth will also evolve. And they will also change in their numbers, in how they come about, in what kind of animal and reptile and plant and mineral is more in evidence, is more plentiful or less. So it is man then that must restore balance by restoring himself. It is well and nigh time not to look upon the skies and wonder who and what is coming, who will save or who will tear down, but to imagine from within and to call it forward. For man has a womb too. And it is from within this womb that the ideas come, not only from the fertile mind or the exonerated heart, for that must come too. Man must exonerate himself, forgive himself, in order to reimagine a new world. And he is and will do this as well. And then from the womb of man, from the womb of creation, will come the ability to bring and to merge and to call upon that of man and woman, and to coax forth life again into a new and different and revitalized way. So the role of man will then change, as will the jobs and the occupations, and how he will see him and how he will dress himself. So you will see the changes then by the good works of man. You will see good public works brought forward again. You will see, rather than monuments made to generals and to kings, you will see instead monuments that will serve a culture, those that will support the resources of the earth, those that will be coaxed forward again. And all of this falls not upon the shoulders of man, for they have been burdened enough. It comes from within. It comes from the imaginary man, the one that knows that above all things he must invent, he must create, he must imagine, he must decode, he must remember, and he must forget. All of this man of today efforts. He efforts to know and to do, and he flails about and he cries about. And he makes a name for himself that is nameless. For look about you now, and you will see that there are no great leaders among men. No great ones have been named. No one has been uplifted. No one has said, there go by a great one. Let us be like him. There are no role models, there are no examples, evidence that man has not yet imagined himself or a new world. But it will come, for I have told you. For I have been with the earth, and am as the earth, for the longest of times, and have seen it once and before. So it is I that have both the power and the mystery, and the resources that I will give, and I will yield as they are asked, but they must be asked for, and then they will be yielded. They will be given in great measure when they are asked. And so man then coaxes this part of himself forward, and as I have watched it before, will watch it again, will suffer with man, will sleep with man, will wake with man, will support and encourage, will feed and clothe man in the ways of a new world, and will help him forget the old. You will see that the earth will cover over the old as I have done before. 'Tis no great thing to cover a monument with sand, nor with the oceans or the tides. 'Tis no great thing to have the earth open and absorb and take back. All in the name of the evolution of life upon the earth, of the life within man and for man, all for humanity. Oh, in spite of what you may say, matters not to Gaia, the earth, or the wrath of nature, the ability of great earthquake. Yes, the body moves and shakes and quivers, as does man's, in all ways. For birth is that, and it is a time of birth for the earth as well. For as man imagines himself, so the earth must also imagine a new planet for man to live upon, and to make what changes and adjustments may be necessary, whether it be to the air that you breathe or the water that you drink, the space that you move about in, or the earth that you walk upon. All of these are yours, but you will make them yours. You will take and you will give, and then you will make, and then you will create. And it is human man, out of his great remembering, and the greatness that he is as he was, and he will take from all of this, and he will remember the gods and the godness within him, and the beings and the beingness within him, and the wise and the wisdom, and the knowing and the knowledge, and the ability to be and to do, and to have, and to say what is and is not. So it is a great speaking here. Perhaps you will wish to hear these words yet but more than once, for I have placed more here than you may hear, but one syllable or one word. You will wish to hear what is there and what is not there. You will wish to use your subtle vision and imagine a future that is already today, and you may imagine all of the yesterdays and yesteryears, what has been and what is no longer. And in so doing, imagine the past as a different past. Imagine each civilization or each culture as that of great effort, of great yearning, each one a labor, a Herculean labor, to bring forward something, a quality, a necessity, a vitality, and such is the importance of the now time. So you will not forget man. You will not forget neither who you are or who you were. but you will remember in order to forget, and forget to remember. And there you will free yourself from the chains of the past. And that is the effort that still binds you. Still chained to your past, you repeat errors. Still chained to your past, your mind does not freely engage. So, sweet man of the now time, hear these words and receive the blessings of the earth. Nurture yourself with the sweetness of the earth, even as woman has done. Take that which is yours and birth yourself into that which already prepares to receive you. As mother, I say this to you. As companion, as guide, I say this to you. As terra, terrestrial earth, I say this to you. As I have once, as I have before. Be well, O man of the future, O liquid light man, for I welcome you and have great need and care for you. I bid you good day.